All right. This should be streaming now. Welcome everyone to the Branding Reality Show. This is actually the first. This is actually the first live that we do in English. The previous project was in Spanish, so for the Spanish speakers, you can check it out. But today we're here with Johanna. She's one of my clients. She lives here in Norway as well. And welcome, Johanna.
Hello, welcome.
I'm very excited about this. We have been working now for about a month, more or less. And basically today's episode, we're going to talk about this strategy phase that we have been working first and foremost. We're going through a branding process for your brand. But before we start diving into those topics, please tell us who you are.
Yeah, that's a multi-dimensional question. So I'm Johanna. I'm originally from Puerto Rico, the Caribbean. And I've been here for 9 years in Norway, in Oslo, living and working. With my partner is Norwegian, so he's the one who brought me here. So before I came to Norway, the story goes, I'm trained as an engineer, so I was living and working and did most of my life in Puerto Rico and worked in the pharma industry for about a decade, almost like 8 to 9 years. And then I went to the US because I had the idea I was going to do a PhD in pharmacy because I didn't want to work in the pharma industry anymore. It was too stressful, too much too soon. So I said, I'm going to go to academia, which should be easy. I could teach and travel. And as it came about, it wasn't what I expected, and I wasn't feeling really my heart was there doing that PhD. But that kind of paved the way, that transition, because I started to get engaged in human rights, in political stuff that was very interesting happening at the university. I started learning Arabic and got very interested in politics and human rights. So I went to the Middle East and worked in Palestine and Iraq for around 3 years, volunteering and, kind of starting my networks. And I was working on women's rights. And yeah, I was traveling and, meeting with different communities, different activists. And I met my Norwegian husband there. And I came here and suddenly life changed. I became a mother. Yeah, that really also, was a big transition where I didn't have anyone here. I just came into a new country and became, like a holder of a new life. And it's like, everything changed once again. And the way I saw life and society and, the work that I had been doing in Iraq about women's rights and, really became a mother. I had a medicalized birth and I started to ask all these questions, like why are all processes of woman medicalized? Why is it that it's menstruation, pregnancy and childbirth, everything is so about, medicalization, cesarean sections, like all these procedures, and who makes the decision? That was really my question. Who makes the decision and why? What is this so structural? Because I realized it was my personal story, but I spoke to so many women that had the same story. having a medicalized birth, not being seen and heard by their providers. And I was like really interested in that, body politics, medicalization, and, you know, all the things that I had been working in the Middle East, and, you know, my experience as a activist and an advocacy, you know, for women, like just came together. And I was like, I'm really passionate about this, so I'm going to make it, you know, so that other women don't have to struggle with this.
So this is what you do now, right?
Yeah.
How do you help women right now?
So I support women, teach women about their menstrual cycle, the physiology, how it works, but also about the emotional aspects of it. Also the psycho-spiritual, you know, how are you connected to your passion, to your purpose, to your authenticity? How do you follow, you know, through your dreams? How do you put boundaries? So it's not only about medicalization, but all these other layers that as a society we had built, you know, to put women in a very, you know, box way. So yeah, so I do that through education, workshops, events, online and in person. I do one-on-one sessions, I do lectures. So I try to be in different forums speaking about this.
That is awesome. And this is actually one of the things that I was the most amazed by when we started working together, because sometimes we forget a little bit about everything that we have gone through, actually, and our story is also there to back us up and to add to whatever we do today, right? So this is one of the things that we worked in the first session, and I did want to ask you, before we started working together, what did you know about branding? Did you think that there was going to be like a strategy phase as we have done it in this process, or what did you think about branding? What was your expectation or ideas about it?
Yeah, I have heard about branding, you know, like you have to tell your story, you have to connect to people, and but I didn't expect, or I didn't think that was so systematic and so thorough as to, you know, reflect how what you do now really ties into your previous story. Because for me, like, my previous story was my previous story. I wasn't talking about it. That was really not surprising, but that it really made me reflect a lot. Like, of course, like the 20 years of, you know, experience I had, even though 10 of them were in the pharma industry, is like, it's related to what I'm doing, because I know a lot about all, you know, the politics and what's involved in the pharma industry that makes all this medicalization of women, you know, relevant, how it ties together. So
exactly.
I was really surprised that I was not taking that more into what I do, because it's very relevant.
It really is. It really is. And I was really, really amazed when I heard all of your story. I was like, why are you not telling this? This is amazing. It's really, and you know, as brands, both corporate brands or more personal brands, which is your case, we have to value or give value to what we've done. And this part of the story also gives you a lot of authority as a brand, right? Because it's not only what we do now, it's all of the tools, all of the experience that we have had in this field, but in other fields as well, that nurture us and make us better professionals, and people can see that. So.
Yeah, and especially when you're coming to a new country, and then it almost feels like your whole story is lost, or, you know, like you're starting from zero, but it's really not.
Yeah.
That's really, yeah.
Yeah, I know how you feel. How would you describe what we have been working on this last 3 strategy sessions that we've had?
Hmm. I think it's funny, but it's like a lot about what I talk is about self-knowledge. So this feels like a process of self-knowledge and including all parts of myself, not just like branding or something that is like a new design or a new font or a new picture of myself, but it's like bringing all the parts of me together, like it's like this Johanna with all of this life experience and professional experience and
Definitely. I think especially we tend to think of the visual aspect, right? Because it's sort of like the most tangible result that we get after the process, right? But that result also has to be cohesive to your own being, because we are like, as personal brands especially, we're not that far away from the business itself, right? And the way you talk about yourself or the way you present yourself, or the way you experience life at this moment, it's going to affect your brand as well, for sure. So this was a really nice process to also get to know you better, to get to know your values. We talked a lot about them. And we also talked about the main promise of the brand. Yeah. This is something that actually we had already sort of touched in a previous workshop that I run at her space here in Oslo. But the main promise of the brand is basically what you are actually offering beyond or besides your services or your products, right? And we came up with freedom. But at first, it was not freedom. Which one was it? Do you remember?
knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It sounds very counterintuitive because it's like if I speak about myself as a women's health educator, it would come health and knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want to say a bit more about the
Yeah.
health, the freedom, or like
Yeah. Go ahead if you want to share something, because I remember the first thought was like, yes, either health or knowledge, because sure, when people work with you, they get to know themselves better. They in a different way, to connect with their own needs a lot more, with their own body. And of course, this comes along with the great knowledge. But ultimately, it's about freedom for women, freedom to make your own informed decisions. Or how did you call it?
Yeah, remember we're talking about sovereignty, this concept of sovereignty and agency and being able to be your own, self, making decisions about your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's this concept of self-sovereignty, like with states, let's be sovereign. Like, what does that mean? Like, no one rules you. So no one rules our body. We decide over our body. And I think as women, we deal a lot, people trying to control, when we give birth, how many births, even at the state level. And it's like, you hear all these slogans. It's about freedom. It's about freedom to decide, freedom to own your body.
Yes.
So,
how did you feel? Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, how did you feel when we came up with this?
Yeah, I was very happy. I was like, yes, exactly. Yeah, sovereignty. it's like we nailed it. It's about that. It's not about knowledge. I mean, knowledge gets you freedom, but it's ultimately, that freedom to decide.
Cool. Was there something that you found a bit more difficult during this process? Something that was harder for you to define or to?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I think, because I want all women to have access to this freedom. So having to decide which, like what is the type of person or client that I want to work with. Ultimately, I want to, to be accessible to every woman. But I have to start, and also the other thing that was difficult that at least that I hadn't thought about until you brought it is like, how do you want to be perceived, or how do you want, people to speak about you or your brand? And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I want people to trust me. But the one thing that it kept coming is like, I want to be inspiring for other women. Like, I want to be a source of inspiration. Like, yes, like, I like what she's saying. I want to, to jump into that same journey, that bus, of freedom.
Yes.
Which is not easy. It's not easy, but it's possible.
Do you feel as a personal brand, do you feel, or do you see also in your environment, because you're also surrounded by several entrepreneurs, especially in her tech and so on, do you think there is a certain pattern of, how can I ask this? Because I remember when we did this exercise and I asked you, what do you want people to say about your brand or about you? And you somehow kept going back to what people get from your services instead of what they say about your brand, right? Do you think there is a certain, I don't know, block or a certain issue that we have to be able to imagine ourselves being this brand, being this this role model or this figure?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about this. Maybe I mentioned it. I can't remember if I mentioned, but is this like, as women, we are used to give. I want to give you this service. I want you to be free. I want you to, to experience this, but it's more difficult to receive, like to receive a compliment or like a feedback or like, something that is good, because you always want to give more and you always want to be more. And I think it's like that, it's like, I hadn't thought about it, or, just like, okay, no, that's not important how people, it's like what I want to give, but it's also like, it really made me reflect about, this blockage in receiving, but also like, how is it that I want people to perceive Johanna? Like, and then when I relax a bit, it's like, I want to be inspiring for other women to, to know that it's possible to be a mother, to have a business. It's not easy for sure, but it's possible, to get away or out of this, square box that, like you are this, you have to be a professional, you have to be a mom, you have to be all these things, and you have to do it the male way. You have to do it the male way of, producing all the time, like all the time being out there and not resting, not receiving, not nurturing yourself.
It is hard. It is complex. Because I can see myself there too sometimes, and not and and you almost feel kind of guilty somehow when you realize, no, I don't want to do things that way, but it seems like everyone expects me to do it this way. So it's how it should be, but actually no, there's many different ways to do things, and it's okay to listen to your body and follow its directions. And this is actually what you do pretty much, because you have a very unique methodology or a point of view, because all of the workshops, all of the one-on-one services that you offer, everything has a very much like a holistic vision. Tell us a bit more. Tell us some details about what you do, or what we can experience with your service.
Yeah, I mean, my idea of holistic is first having, I'm also still developing this language, but having a woman-centered approach. So listening to what women need, because most times when you go to the health care services, they will tell you something. They don't ask you, what do you need? They told me, after the 6 weeks birth control, which birth control method do you want? Or, I said, like, I don't use birth control. I have, she said, like, which of these, the hormonal or the non-hormonal? It was like, you didn't ask me what I use, what do I need, what do I feel comfortable, so it's that space that I want to make available for women so that they can express themselves, with removing that hierarchy that is like the doctor knows more about my body than I do. So having like a equal, and that you can say what you need and what you want without fear of sounding weird, or like that you don't know, or asking questions, like, and removing that power inequality. And I do that in many ways. I have many tools, so it depends on the woman, but just basically hear, her story, and then I put different aspects of the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, what life transition she's going through. Is she going through menopause? Is she going through postpartum? She's given a birth and she's going through a postpartum process. So it's different needs. It's not about what medication do you need or what symptom are you having. It's like, what is the whole environment, like support networks, sleep, like life situation. The doctor, can give medication, but and I don't say that's not relevant. It's relevant, because there's some like immediate needs that need to be taken care of, or like life threatening, aspects that might need to be taken care of. But beside that, expanding, health into a more, dynamic and multidimensional way. Like, it's like emotionally, how are you feeling? What's going on in your life? You can't sleep because, you don't have time for yourself because you're working, and then you're taking care of your family, and then you're cooking, and then you're like, So it's like, a woman is like, someone's seeing and listening, like someone sees me. And then, you can go deeper.
Yeah. I feel it's so easy sometimes to just sort of notice the symptoms of whatever might be happening, and sometimes we just put apart with medicine or with whatever, right? But it is so powerful, and that is okay, of course, but it is also so powerful to be able to acknowledge that your body is telling you things, and you just have to listen, You have to educate yourself, and that's a very powerful tool for you to get to a point where you feel good about yourself. Your health can also improve because you are connected with everything that you are. And I think that's really powerful. And it's one of the things that I think makes you different and makes you so unique, especially here. You know, we were having some not issues, but it was a bit harder than maybe expected to define who you are and what you do, because you have such a holistic approach. I think it turned out pretty well in the end.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, more concrete that I do is like, I mean, I use herbs that grow here locally. I encourage women to connect, you know, with the place that they're living, get to know what's growing here, because the plants that grow here are full of nourishment and full of the support that we need. So getting to know, you know, the plants, that also breaks a sense of isolation. So there's so many levels. And then I use sound. So I use these traditional practices that have been used for many, you know, cultures and many generations to support balancing health, which some people, which is also something we struggle with, you know, this aspect of being too spiritual, or, you know, so, but these are all things that medicine is finding that's really, you know, connected to our body, to our nervous system, to regulating ourselves. So you can see it in the traditional perspective, how people used it with the common names and the common knowledge, and you can use it now with this neuroscience of the nervous system, or, you know, like regulating trauma and supporting trauma release and trauma response. So it's also, you know, like these different aspects that I can speak to both of them, you know, I can speak to the scientific and to the traditional. So
I think it's very powerful, again, this connection you have between the two, the different tools, right? More scientific, more academic tools, but also understanding that there's also a lot more than that, and that is there for us, and we just need to learn about it. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Who could benefit from your services, from what you do?
I mean, I speak mostly to women. I would say, like, women, or people with the vulva and vagina. That's a more inclusive language. So yeah, because I focus on gynecological health. And what else? Yeah, so really, women who want to connect to their body, to their intuition. I don't know, that's tricky, because maybe not everyone is, you know, connected to that. Like, maybe many women would think that what they are offered by the health system is okay. So I'm not sure. That question is a bit tricky. Or, I mean, like, it seems to me that it's also a bit exclusive, right? In a sense, like, I wish that this could be, you know, taught in schools, and people don't need to, you know, to realize it when they're going to give birth, or when they are, you know, after many years in birth control, and realizing that wasn't the choice that they would have made if they had that all information. So
I'm also very interested in talking about, just a little bit, about cycles, and how our menstrual cycle affects us during the whole process, during the whole cycle, because this is actually something that you're going to be teaching next week in a workshop here in Oslo. So if you guys are interested, you can definitely check it out. I will be there because it's a workshop specifically for women entrepreneurs, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think this is so powerful because like I really want to learn a lot more. So if you could tell us just I don't know, some juicy stuff about cycles so that
Like a teaser preview.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a huge topic, and I approach it from different perspectives. But I realize that the basic thing is to learn that your cycle is responsible for much more than reproductive health.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about having children or not. It's about your whole system: bone health, heart health, skin health, how you are able to sleep and relax. Because we have two phases. We have the follicular phase and the luteal phase.
Mm-hmm.
The follicular phase is governed by estrogen, which is the responsible to start maturing the follicles in the first half of your menstrual cycle. So you have estrogen start to grow the follicles, and then in a period of 24 hours, which is also many people don't know, you ovulate only for 24 hours. So you're fertile that window of 24 hours plus or minus 2-3 days. So after you ovulate, that one ovule, it's released from the little sac, and then it goes into the fallopian tubes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you start to produce progesterone. That's the other half of the cycle, and progesterone is responsible for sustaining a pregnancy if you were to be pregnant. So progesterone makes you very relaxed, makes you sleep good, but also makes you very vulnerable because you are trying, you're going to be holding a new life. So your body is like
potentially getting ready for it.
Potentially. But even if you're not, it has that effect of calming, of relaxing, but also making you more open and more vulnerable to society, to the world, to everything that's going on around you. So if you, from what I said, maybe you can notice that estrogen is more like outward. It's focused on, getting you potentially pregnant, but not only that, it's giving you energy, it's making you pretty, it's making your skin glow, just to, to attract a partner. And that's the biological aspect, but also it's making your body more outward, while progesterone is making your body more inward. So if you take those cues, there's parts of your cycle where you're more inclined to socialize, to be with others, to be more direct, more focused. And there's other parts of your cycle where you just want to relax, chill out, be more into your creative flow. And if you hone onto those two energies, you can get much more done without being so judgmental on yourself.
I so look forward to learning more about this because especially, well, for everyone, for every woman or every person that has a vulva and vagina, I feel we have mostly treated menstruation as if it was a disaster during our lives. Like the moment you get your menstruation, is like, oh, why me? It's like from this point of view of suffering it, instead of getting to know the whole cycle and actually using it
to your benefit,
to our benefit. It's so powerful. I really can't wait. So when is this happening? I know already, but for
next
people,
Tuesday, February the 7th at 6:00 in the evening.
All right. And this is taking place at Her Space? is a co-working and events space here in Oslo. So if you guys are interested on that, I will definitely share it on my Instagram as well. And yeah, how can we find you?
I'm mostly using Instagram these days, no, but I also have a website. So my name is Wild and the Moon with dots in between, Wild and the Moon. And my website is wildandthemoon.earth.
Awesome. Yeah.
So and I want to say I'm about to send the newsletter. So if you want to hop in, I will send it at 1:00. So just after.
All right. Yeah, it's a bit past 1 now, but
okay. But yeah, you can subscribe and I can send.
Right.
Resend you the newsletter.
Awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Johanna, for being here. I hope you enjoyed the talk as well.
Really nice. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you everyone who's been watching us. Also, if you have any questions about what Johanna does, you can definitely contact her on Instagram, or you can leave a comment down below. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, bye.